Developed by Naughty Dog, Jak and Daxter is a 3D platformer about an orange animal and his intense love for collecting shiny objects. No, okay, that's the wrong game. So Jak and Daxter is about a pointy-eared protagonist and his trusty sidekick battling across the galaxy. That's the wrong one too. How about a protagonist in blue travels across different lands with his friends to bring back the honor of his disgraced family. No, okay, that's the wrong one. Jak and Daxter in the Precursor Legacy is a 3D platformer about a silent but deadly, pointy-eared, blue tunic-wearing powerful eco-channeler with an orange Otzel as his loudmouth sidekick, and they're ready for anything. For me as a kid, this game series was part of the big three, but it wasn't the top dog. I love this series, but I think my child owes more to Ratchet and Clank and Sly Cooper. But Jak is still completely necessary to talk about, which I'm going to split up into a series of 5 videos covering the 3 main entries and the 2 spin-offs that we care about. I'd like to avoid talking about the ugly duckling of the series. If you know, you know. Also, I'm not mindful of spoilers. The game's super old. Chances are you can rent it on PCX or buy the remakes on the PS4. With that out of the way, let's get into it.
I have spent my life searching for the answers that my father and my father's fathers failed to find. Who were the precursors? Why did they create the vast monoliths that litter our planet? How did they harness eco, the life energy of the world? What was their purpose? And why did they vanish? I have asked the plants, but they do not remember. The plants have asked the rocks, but the rocks do not recall. Even the rocks do not recall. Every bone in my body tells me that the answers rest on the shoulders of a young boy. Oblivious to his destiny, uninterested in the search for truth, and rejecting of my guidance. And why would he want to listen to old Samus the Sage anyway? I'm only the master of Green Eco, one of the wisest men on the planet.
Thinking about the types of games that Naughty Dog creates today, the first Jak really stands out as this sort of cartoony, silly, goofy, and stylized experience that does return somewhat in the sequels, but the Precursor Legacy embodies it the most. With the pointy-eared and big-eyed characters, it's almost reminiscent of an anime. For 2001, that's a pretty nuanced style. As a kid, I wasn't always fond of this, just because I never really appreciated stylized art as much as I could have. I always appreciated that grimy, dirty, and industrial feeling from games like Metroid Prime and Super Metroid, as thanks to my stepdad, those are my first video games that I ever played. So naturally, as a child, I'd be more likely to gravitate to the things I already know. Yet as I grow older, it seems like everything wants to be this industrial and hyper-realistic game, and I find myself gravitating towards the stylized now. So that's my growing attraction to anime, is postmodern, abstract, and other forms of boundless creativity. So replaying these games again to see Daxter and Kira Zoomer and Samos, it was like a breath of fresh air from things like Modern Warfare and Uncharted and The Last of Us. But don't get me wrong, all of those games are still amazing pieces of art and they deserve their own recognition, but it's just not what I'm after anymore. But to get back on topic, I felt it was important to cover the art style because the overall theme and the feeling does change quite a bit through the series, especially going from Precursor Legacy to Jak 2. It's an interesting sight and will be covered in the later videos more because you'll physically see the actual changes that I'm going to be talking about in those videos. Getting into the details about the game itself, the Precursor Legacy is a fairly simple story with minimal underlying elements to the plot. There are 2 bad guys corrupted by evil magic juice, and they want to corrupt the world with their magic juice. It's pretty easygoing, but the game decides to skip on the nitty-gritty details, likely because the Precursor Legacy is almost like the pilot episode to the series. These characters already exist, and the world is already accepted to be the way that it is by all the characters, so there's no reason to throw heavy exposition at the player, and you're just expected to kind of suspend your disbelief about certain things. A good way to show what I mean is the Precursor Oracles and the Orbs, the idea of eco and the world's wildlife, and how the characters interact with these different things going on. Starting off with the wildlife, the animals in this world are honestly a ton of fun. The bird dragon-like thing you hatch from the egg in the beginning of the game comes in quite handy later down the line. Also, the creatures you have to redirect into their burrows seem like nice boys too. That Muse runs fast as hell, but he sure is a cutie. The yakas are probably the most popular animal in this game, and we even get to herd some right in the beginning for the relics. All of these animals have the thing in common that they are all living in tandem with the people of the land, rather than one of them dominating the other. It adds to the peaceful nature of the game as sort of this kiddie-friendly vibe to it, and it's much different from the games that would come to play now and the sequels coming up later. As far as what you do in the game, it's essentially a collectathon. There are the relics I mentioned a second ago all over the place called power cells. This power cell is named appropriately, and according to Kira, it's needed to power all sorts of things like heat shields and levitation devices. It's not really obvious how or why these things power other things, considering blue eco vents also power other things, but it's safe to assume power cells are to batteries as blue eco is to like geothermal energy in real life. Also, there are these precursor orbs scattered about, which you can trade to the oracles of the precursors for more power cells, as well as trade to other villagers.
90 precursor orbs.
Would you be kind enough to loan your dear old uncle 90 precursor orbs so he...
Nice try. But I would be willing to part with another power cell if you two find me 90 precursor orbs for my research equipment.
Bring me 90 orbs to get me back on my feet and out of this barrel, and I'll give you a power cell in return.
Right. Fine. Bring me 90 precursor orbs and I'll let the pontoons loose.
We got 4 of them. You want them?
What Birdbrain here is trying to say is, we may have a few power cells laying around, and we might be willing to part with them for 90 orbs each.
Where have I heard that before?
Speaking of eco, this shit is everywhere. It's part of the natural world that can do a lot of cool stuff. As far as we can tell in the first game, it comes in 6 forms. There's green, the form of healing and growth. Yellow and red's are form of strength, except yellow is more about precision and red is more about pure burst energy. And blue is a representation of motion, kinetic energy, and speed, and is able to be channeled through not only people, but machinery. These 4 colors combined make up what is known to be the most powerful form of eco, the light eco. This is the eco of creation and enlightenment. And then dark eco is the antithesis of that, the eco of destruction and corruption. The stuff about eco is important to keep in mind because it's a reoccurring force through the series of games, and it keeps these same properties. It's kind of a nice touch that there's a lore explanation for the pickups around the world, like other platformers have these pickups like health and other power-ups, but a lot of the time it's not really clear or important as to why you're collecting them. Right in the beginning of the game, we're introduced to Jak as the hero meant to change the world with power, and Daxter is the loudmouth sidekick. In the intro, they visit Skull Island because they're rebellious teens looking to get in some trouble, only to realize they bit off more than they can chew. By accident, they were discovered and attacked by a lurker. Daxter fell into a pit of dark eco, but instead of being disintegrated like any time anyone or anything else falls into dark eco, he just pops back out in the form of Wendy's 2 for 5, Otter and Weasel, later referred to as an Otzel. The Precursor Legacy takes place in a number of locations. After the Skull Island cinematic, you begin in Jak's home, Sandover Village, a small little town used as a hub location for Samos and his daughter Kira. Samos mad because Daxter and Jak disobeyed him about the Skull Island thing, but he's willing to tell you how he might be able to turn Dax human again. Immediately, you're given one overarching mission. Find power cells to proceed to find the Dark Eco researchers Goal and Maya to figure out how to turn Daxter back into a human. Here in Sandover, we also find the mayor of the village, Jak's uncle, a farmer, a sculptor, a fisherman, and a crazy bird lady. To reach that goal, you have to associate with these villagers, explore and complete other optional objectives that may even have an impact on the world around you. Just sort of minor details in the game that breathe life into the world and make you feel like what you're doing matters to what's going on around you. The most noticeable example is in the beginning of the game. There's a mini-boss where the mayor directs you to go to repair the village's power. If you beat him, his wriggly little tentacles littered in the area also flop over and are no longer a threat. The things like this that get me to appreciate this game much more. There's also another example in the Snowy Mountains. There's a yellow eco vent that you can activate that changes the way that the map plays and unlocks more collectibles for you. The game transitions into different areas as the story progresses, from Sandover and Misty Island that you see in the game's intro, to Rock Village, which houses an underwater precursor city, which is the most gorgeous part of the game, then to Snowy Mountains and their deep dark caves, all of which you can go to without ever seeing a loading screen. For 2001, this is quite the feat. The overall plan remained simple for Jak until upon arriving to the Dark Eco Research Hub to find out that the sages, Gol and Maya, were actually corrupted by the Eco all along, and they turned evil. They reveal to us that they want to bend the world to the will of Dark Eco by releasing Eco from the Precursor silo and spilling it everywhere. On their mission, Gol and Maya discover some insane Precursor technology like a big freaking mech suit, which they'll use to try and open the silo. Jak and Daxter are following close behind after the reveal. To solidify their victory, Gol and Maya have captured the sages, including Samos, and intend on using their Eco for their strength. This leads to a climactic finale where Jak uses Eco to duck and dodge the mech suit attacks, where eventually the freed sages combine their strength to form the mythical Light Eco. Daxter assumes that this stuff might be able to return to his former human self, but he decides instead that Jak should use it to destroy the mech, thus destroying Gol and Maya and saving the world. As a little Easter egg for anyone who collected every power cell like I did, they leave us a cliffhanger into Jak 2. You use the 100 power cells in the game to open up what we later find out to be a warp gate that travels through time. I'll leave it there for now until the Jak 2 video. Going back and playing this game was a fun time. I beat it in just a day, even collecting all of the power cells. The orbs I didn't really care for, but I'll talk about why in a bit. I think that going back to this game after knowing the entire story is fairly interesting. It's kind of like his humble beginnings where young and innocent silent Jak is purely heroic and a good guy. He saves the day with his buddy and he gets the girl. Kinda. My only real gripe is how annoying collectathons are. You never notice it as a kid because you have so much time on your hands, but damn. To put it in perspective, there are 101 power cells in the game, so you have a margin of error of 1 power cell for the super secret ending. 16 of which are collected by collecting 7 of another collectible in each area. Another 9 are found by collecting 90 orbs a pop, and another 6 for 120 orbs. Orbs are found a lot, but doing the math, you need at least 1,530 precursor orbs to get the secret ending. 31 of those cells, or basically 1/3 of the total, are essentially collected by collecting while you're collecting. It gets stale and basic pretty quickly, but luckily the game isn't very long in general, or difficult, to really make it that standout problem. After collecting the other 69 of these bad boys, I was kind of sick of the cutscenes and the music. And all for it to be for an anticlimactic ending. Imagine if the Precursor Legacy failed and you put in the hours and never got a solution to what the warp gate was. Of course, as a kid, I never wanted to collect anything at all. I only like socking bad guys and shooting eco bolts, and I really can't blame kid me. Look how fun this is. Look at how satisfying these animations are as Jak slips and slides and spins and rolls with Daxter hanging on for his life. Only now as an adult do I give meaning to things like collections, which in turn makes me care about why and how I'm collecting. Good thing Jak 2 strayed away from this and gave us more of a character ride and elaborated on the foundations left by a TPO, which in general there isn't too much to say about TPO beyond that. In any case, if you haven't given it a whirl, you should do it. It's a fun few hours off the PS4 collection, or if you have a PC that can do it, try it on PCX. Does it live up to today's standards? Not quite, but it's still a nice nostalgia trip to get lost in now and again. And going into it not really expecting anything life-changing is the best way to do it. Fun, yes. Longevity, not really. I'll leave you off with this quote from a developer.
Here's my personal opinion on Jak and Daxter, is that we, and by we I mainly mean I, made a mistake in directing that title to be too broad for too many audiences. Crash was designed as we thought Crash should be, and then tweaked for other territories.
Gotcha.
Jak was a mishmash of a lot of ideas from a lot of people as we were creating the character. And at the end of the day, I don't think he looked like a great Western character. I don't think he was a great Japanese character. There were things we did for the European market that I don't think were great. There were things we did actually for Saudi Arabia and other markets like that might have hurt it. I think that character was a little too much of the kitchen sink.
Right.
Other than that, see you guys in the deep dive of Jak 2. If you enjoyed this retrospective of Jak 1, go ahead and leave a like on this video, subscribe if you haven't already, and check out the socials in the description or the end of this video. Later.